You know, some 911 calls just send a chill right down your spine. A simple wellness check that, in an instant, turns into an absolute nightmare. That one sentence, just choked out in a panic, was the spark that lit the fuse on an investigation into a crime so carefully covered up it would push the justice system to its absolute limits.
So, today we're diving into the incredibly complex and chilling case of Zachariah Anderson. He's a man who got the nickname Houdini from another inmate for a really grim reason. He made a body disappear. And that created this huge central question for everyone involved. How in the world do you prove someone was murdered when you can't even find the victim?
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's May 19th, 2020. A woman named Sadie Beeum is worried. She hasn't heard from her boyfriend, Rosaleo Gutierrez, for a day. She goes to his apartment, and when she opens that door, she walks straight into a horror movie. Rosaleo is nowhere to be found, but his blood is everywhere. I mean, on the walls, the ceiling, the floor. It was obvious something incredibly violent went down in there.
Now, to really get what's going on here, you have to understand the relationships involved. Sadie had been in this long, messy, on-again, off-again thing with Zachariah Anderson. They even had 3 kids together. But in 2019, she finally called it quits for good. Fast forward to early 2020, and she's happy she's in a new relationship with Rosaleo. Then, May 17th hits. Rosaleo talks to his family for the very last time. Just 2 days later, he's vanished.
When detectives got to the apartment, the scene was, well, it was disturbing. The sheer amount of blood, which DNA quickly confirmed was Rosaleo's, told them this was a fatal struggle. There was no sign of a break-in, which suggested Rosaleo might have known his attacker, maybe even let him in. And here's a key detail that shows some serious forethought. A big area rug was just gone. The immediate theory? It was used to wrap up and carry out the body.
So, of course, the police are talking to this frantic girlfriend, Sadie, and one name just keeps coming up over and over. Her ex, Zachariah Anderson. She tells them he just couldn't let go, that his behavior was getting more and more bizarre. Right away, investigators knew they had a prime suspect, with one of the oldest motives in the book, pure obsessive jealousy.
And what Zachariah was doing? I mean, this wasn't just some guy who was sad about a breakup. His actions were textbook stalking. His obsession wasn't just with Sadie anymore. It had spread to the new man in her life, Rosaleo, and it was escalating in a really scary way.
When you look at what he was actually doing, it's this chilling, step-by-step escalation. He actually used his own daughter as a spy, taking her to snoop on her mom. He planted a phone and a vent so he could listen in on them. He even stole Rosaleo's truck registration out of Sadie's car and told his daughter he might have the guy followed for fun. And on his laptop, a whole file dedicated to Rosaleo, just filled with his pictures. This was a man completely consumed.
And just listen to what Sadie told her own daughter, Olivia. This quote right here, it just paints a picture of the terror she was living with every single day. For her, this wasn't a breakup anymore. It was a constant state of fear. She knew her ex was a wild card and was absolutely terrified of what he was going to do next. Okay, so with everything Sadie and her daughter Olivia told them, the police had way more than enough to arrest Zachariah for stalking. Once he was in custody, the whole investigation shifted gears. The search for Rosaleo, or for any clue about what happened to him, was now laser-focused on Zachariah's house and his property.
And the first thing they find at Zachariah's place is a huge red flag. I'm talking about a giant burn pit that was still smoldering. Now, this was super suspicious because the area had been slammed with 6 inches of rain over the last 4 days. A fire burning that intensely through all that water? It suggests a pretty desperate attempt to destroy something big.
Then, inside Zachariah's van, they find this tiny piece of paper that tells a huge story, a Walmart receipt. Check out the date, May 18th. Just a few hours after Rosaleo was last heard from, and the items he bought, with cash, are just chilling. Garbage bags, latex gloves, and bleach. It's basically a murderous cleanup kit.
And the van itself? I mean, it was practically screaming cover-up. The whole inside reeked of bleach. You could see bleach stains on the floor, and a huge chunk of the carpet in the back. It was just gone, physically ripped out. Somebody had gone to some serious, frantic lengths to scrub that vehicle clean.
But here's the thing. Even with all this circumstantial evidence piling up, prosecutors were facing this massive problem. They have a bloody apartment, a suspect with a clear motive, a van that's been scrubbed, but they have no body, no weapon, and no confession. Their entire case was about to come down to the tiniest piece of evidence you can possibly imagine.
And then they found it. This was the moment everything changed. After combing through that van for 8 straight days, the Wisconsin State Crime Lab found one single tiny speck of blood. DNA test confirmed it. It was Rosaleo Gutierrez's blood. For the detectives, this was the smoking gun, the direct physical link that put the victim inside the suspect's van.
Now, you have to remember, this all went down during the pandemic, so everything got delayed. It took almost 3 years for Zachariah Anderson to finally stand trial, and the job for the prosecution was just huge. They had to convince 12 regular people, beyond a reasonable doubt, that a man was dead and that Zachariah killed him, all without the one thing you're supposed to have in a murder trial, a body.
So when this finally gets to trial, you basically have 2 completely different stories being told. The prosecution is building this mountain of circumstantial evidence: the bloody apartment, that critical drop of blood in the van, the stalking, the cleanup kit. But the defense just keeps hammering away at what's missing. No body, no weapon, no witnesses. Their argument was pretty simple. No body, no crime. How can you be sure a murder even happened?
But then the prosecution plays a trump card. They bring in a jailhouse informant who says Zachariah actually confessed to him. He claims Zachariah bragged about the whole thing, wrapping the body in garbage bags, getting rid of it, and that the other inmates started calling him Houdini because he'd made the body completely disappear. So after a 4-week trial, it all came down to the jury. They had to weigh that mountain of circumstantial evidence against the stark fact that there was no body. And in the end, they found the prosecution's story completely convincing. Zachariah Anderson was found guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, stalking, and hiding a corpse. So, a guilty verdict. That brings justice, right? Well, legally, yes. But for the family of Rosaleo Gutierrez, the story is nowhere near over. Because when you don't have a body to lay to rest, your grief is just stuck. It's this agonizing, unending limbo. Just listen to what Rosaleo's father said in his victim impact statement. It's just heartbreaking. His words really capture the special kind of cruelty that comes with a no-body murder case. It's not just that he lost his son, it's that he was robbed of the basic human need to say goodbye, to have a place to go to mourn him. And it wasn't just Rosaleo's family that was destroyed here. Zachariah's own daughter, Olivia, the girl who had to testify against her own dad, she spoke about her loss too. Her father didn't just kill a man, he completely shattered his own family, leaving his daughter wondering if he ever really loved her at all. In the end, the sentence was what you'd expect. Zachariah Anderson got the maximum. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison, with absolutely no chance of parole. The law delivered its final word.
And that's where this case leaves us, with this really tough, lingering question. Yeah, the killer's behind bars for life, but Rosaleo Gutierrez is still gone. The system delivered a conviction, but it couldn't deliver closure. And it just makes you wonder, what does justice really mean when a family is left with this permanent, aching hole where a final goodbye should be?